But first, finding yourself locked out of your home is a stressful situation at the best of times. In the worst case scenario, you may find yourself having to call a locksmith to help get you back inside. Being locked out can put you in a vulnerable position. But data shared exclusively with you and yours has revealed that there's been a 45% increase in the number of complaints about rogue locksmiths exploiting that vulnerability over the past year. Things like causing unnecessary damage to locks and then overcharging for replacements. Well, two people who've experienced that got in touch with us. I spoke to Jessica, not her real name, and Ben Fleming earlier, and they told me what happened.
I went to the gym and I decided not to take my phone or my money with me because I thought they would be safer inside my house. Put my key in my front door and then I couldn't get the lock open. It had been a bit sticky before, but I just absolutely couldn't open the lock. Because I hadn't got my phone on me, I went next door to my neighbour and he looked up locksmiths on the Google rankings, and at the top he found some quite cheap ones, like £49, and that seemed quite a reasonable price, and I thought that was going to be the price of the job. It was 24hrslocksmiths.co.uk. Yeah, they came out. He didn't speak at all. Immediately got his drill out, which the first thing he did was drilled out the lock, which then meant my house was totally unsecured.
You were shown a website with the locks on it. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it was Astra security.co.uk, and he showed me prices of £466.
Which presumably startled you considerably, since you thought you were only going to pay £49.
Yes, as he'd then got my house unsecured, I agreed to pay that price. I didn't feel I had any choice.
Right. So how much did you pay in the end?
In the end, by the time he'd finished, I paid £1,146.
Right. What was your reaction to that? And I mean, did that put you in a difficult position money-wise?
I was absolutely horrified. And yes, it did put me in a difficult position. I then had to make other choices, like not having my leak in my bathroom fixed.
Did you argue with him about the price at the time?
No, I didn't, because I was... At that stage, I started feeling very uncomfortable and thought, well, he's got a bag full of big, heavy, nasty tools here. He could do me a lot of damage. I really didn't know what to do, and I got quite scared. So I just paid.
Right. Now, you called out a local reputable locksmiths. What did they tell you about what the job should have cost?
They told me it should have been between £160 and £200. They said that I didn't need to have had it drilled out. They could have got in just by kind of picking the lock.
Right. How do you feel about the whole thing?
Well, I feel really violated. I feel terrified. I'm scared stiff now to use the internet for anything. Yeah, I'm just very, very vulnerable.
Let me bring in Ben. Tell us, you've heard what happened to Jessica. What was your experience?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Mine was kind of similar. So I was meant to be going to Brighton to see a mate, and I'd kind of packed my bag, had my keys in the bag, and I thought, well, I'll just take out the bins before I head off. Did them and then realised, oh God, I've left my keys in my rucksack. And that's when I thought, okay, well, I've got to call a locksmith.
So what was the name of the company you contacted, and how did you find them?
So I just looked up like locksmith in my area. And then, yeah, funnily enough, also saw this 24/7 locksmith website come up, like top of the billing. And I know obviously people can pay to get premium spots sort of on Google as like a promoted search. I'm only 27. I've never had to call a locksmith before. And so, yeah, I rang them up. Yeah, I had the same thing. I was told, oh, someone will be there in about half an hour. I didn't actually get a quote over the phone. He got out a sort of lockpick and pretended to try and pick it and was like, oh, no, it's a high security lock. Won't be able to pick this. I'm going to have to drill it. He told me it should be around £200 before he started. And I thought, okay, that's not awful. Like, it's not ideal, but it could be a lot worse. And in my head, I assumed that would be for the whole job. I only later found out that was, when I got the invoice, that was just the price for drilling. And then yeah, once someone's drilled your lock, you can't really do a lot about that because now your flat's just open to anyone. And he quoted me like £230 for a new Yale lock, which I've later found out RRP is about 20 or 30 quid. I ended up paying sort of £720. I knew it was way too much in the situation, but similar to Jessica, I felt like, what else am I meant to do? Like, this guy was just sat in my flat waiting for me to pay. So yeah, then I contacted Citizens Advice, eventually getting through to being told to make a complaint to trading standards. And this was back in February, and then I didn't really hear anything for a while. And then sort of at the end of April, I had an email from a guy at Trading Standards who'd picked up the case and said they were looking into them for possible criminal charges.
Right. Now, in terms of trying to get the money back, Jessica, you paid by credit card, I think. So you contacted your bank to see if you could claim the money back under something known as Section 75. What did they say?
I immediately contacted them and said, can you not let the payment go through? And they said, no, the payment has to go through and then you can dispute it after the payment has been made, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. The bank contacted me Friday after they realised that you had been in touch with me, and they called me to say that they were looking into it.
Ben, you paid by debit card, so you aren't protected under this Section 75. What's happening in your case?
No, I mean, I'm hoping if the criminal case gets anywhere that I'd be able to get some money back.
Ben and Jessica talking to me earlier. Well, we contacted the company Jessica dealt with, 24hrslocksmith.co.uk. They told us in an email that they're a private company, they pay tax, and that if a customer doesn't feel good with the money paid, that they, and I quote directly, invite them in court. We also contacted 24hour7locksmiths.uk. That's the one that Ben dealt with. We've had no reply from them. But according to information on Companies House, this business has been dissolved, so should no longer be trading. Well, Jessica's bank, Santander, has since been in touch to say that while they sympathise that she's unhappy with the amount paid to the locksmith, they're unable to return her money under the Section 75 scheme rules, as the amount she paid was the price agreed for the work received. Well, listening to that is Steffan George, Managing Director of the Master Locksmiths Association. That's the UK's largest trade association for locksmiths. Steffan, you're receiving more complaints about this kind of practice, I think. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, we are indeed, Peter. We've seen a 45% increase in complaints from the same period, the first 6 months of 2025 versus 2023. Unfortunately, it's the typical bait and switch type scam, taking advantage of the vulnerable state that people find themselves in. People going to search engines, finding top of the list, going with them. It's tainting not just the whole industry as a whole. You know, all locksmiths are being tainted with the same brush, but obviously affecting consumers as well.
But why do you think it's on the increase, Steffan?
Because nothing's been done. Basically, these companies are getting away with it. They've found the way to play the system. They can advertise on search engines, no questions asked. There's no regulation of the industry, which means anybody can call themselves a locksmith. Anybody can advertise services as a locksmith. Anybody can buy locksmith tools. So there's really nothing to stop them.
And I mean, they both found these locksmiths via a quick online search. Is that part of the issue?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the typical MO for these companies. They will pay significant amounts of money to search engines to feature at the top for searches for locksmiths in various areas. They will always use a very low price initially. In fact, it's interesting that one of your callers said it was £49, because actually in the industry they're referred to as the 49ers because they're always advertising that sort of £49, £39, and it's very unclear what that actually covers. What does that actually mean?
Do people think that's just a call-out charge?
This is the problem. I mean, quite often we've seen invoices where the £49 has actually been on there, but it's actually the smallest amount that's on there, and it's all been added to. It's that old adage of if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah. Now, Jessica mentioned the website that she was shown to show the prices of the lock being quoted. It's called Astra Security Hardware. Have you come across that brand with this website before?
We've only come across the website because of complaints that we received. So it's not a particularly well-known brand in terms of locks themselves. We couldn't find much information on them. There's no information about any kind of third-party certification that the products may have. It's very unclear what the prices actually refer to.
Now, there is another locksmith company with a very similar name, Astra Security Systems. It's based in Kent and it's been trading for over 45 years. In the last few months, they've started receiving calls from people mistaking it for Astra Security Hardware, mixing it up. Graham Twist is their company director and he told us what's been happening.
It's something that we have found quite perplexing. We've had a number of calls over the last few months from clients of this company, and they either want spare keys for their locks or they have suffered problems with this company and want to vent off and irate, and they think we're that company. And we've had to politely try and explain that we're based in Maidstone, this other company is based in South London, and unfortunately they're operating with rogue elements. And I do feel very sorry for the people who have been hoodwinked.
Well, we put these concerns to Astra Security Hardware. They told us that the prices of the locks include all service charges and a final price, and that they can't control who can view their website or use their prices to their advantage. They said they strongly condemn any misuse of their brand by private locksmiths to justify inflated call-out or labour fees. Steffan, just finally, what should people do if they want to ensure that to avoid this kind of experience?
Well, there are two things that can be done. Firstly, consumers can avoid the issue by knowing who they're going to use before actually needing a locksmith. They can either visit locksmiths.co.uk to find the details of their nearest MLA-approved locksmith, or get details of a trusted local professional locksmith from family, friends, etc. Put those details into your mobile phone so that you know who you're going to use when the worst happens. However, perhaps more importantly, the second issue is search engines need to start taking responsibility. They are enabling this to happen. They are allowing these rogues to advertise on their platforms. And at the flick of a switch, they could stop this. So why aren't they? They have in countries abroad. They've done it in Germany, in the Benelux, in some Nordic countries. I contacted the new MD for Google, the new MD for Google UK a couple of weeks ago, and I've heard nothing back. So why is it that consumers in the UK are being treated less fairly than abroad?
Steffan George, thank you very much indeed. A lot to think of there, but might be very important.